Merkel Media.
He put it in park, threw open the driver's door, ran out the side of the car, across the front of it, and jumped right off the side of the bridge in front of me.
The only people that really pulled over were truckers.
He said, we're going Hodge, and he didn't slow down. He went across the median onto the oncoming traffic, but where they could see him coming, they just got out of the way.
I noticed this plane was really low. It went right in front of us, hit the fence, and it spun around. 30 seconds more, he could have hit us.
But I went around that truck, and a guy stepped out from behind the truck and threw a piece of wood, and it shot through my window just like a spear and stuck in the back of the cab of my truck.
That's probably one of the stranger things I've seen.
Welcome to Hammer Lane Legends. I am Brian Merkel.
I'm Brian Shipper.
And I'm Mike Dre.
And we are Hammer Lane Legends. If you have a crazy and wild story you would like to share with us from the road, if you'd like to have a conversation with us about your experiences on the road, go ahead and contact us. If you drive for anything, if you drive for Uber, if you're a truck driver, if you're whatever kind of driver, an EMT driver, Mike, give me another driver. I don't know.
A suck truck driver.
I actually drove a suck truck years ago. That was one of the first jobs I had in this industry, and it sucked.
It's a shitty job.
It was. It literally was. I worked for a company called MPW. It stood for Monty's Poor Workers.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of something else.
Yeah, I figured you were. Anyway, go ahead and contact us at hammerlanelegends.com, at gmail.com. That's hammerlanelegends@gmail.com. Or go to the hammerlanelegends.com webpage. Get a hold of us that way. Hit the contact section. Either way works for us. Just get a hold of us. Shipper, tell them about the Buy Me a Coffee.
Keep us fueled, keep us caffeinated at buymeacoffee.com/hammerlane, virtual tip jar. If you like what we're doing, help support the show, keep us caffeinated, keep us drinking coffee and soda and otherwise.
Anybody have an idea what today is?
Oh, yes. We have to do whatever the.
Well, yesterday was Pie Day. So can I get through this?
It was Pie Day.
Yes. Okay. Keep us fueled, keep us caffeinated. Follow the simple prompts. If you like contributing, appreciate it.
We were talking history.
We were.
Oh, history. Here we go.
All
history
right.
I didn't know.
Today is March 15th. Anybody? The Ides
1
of
month
March.
Before tax season.
Caesar. The Ides of March. Beware the Ides of... No?
Nope.
All right. Never mind. Scott, how are you? We're talking to Scott today.
Moving along. Nothing to see here.
Never mind.
Breathe.
History apparently is not everybody's forte. So,
Well, 10 centuries ago, no.
Theodorus.
I don't know what that
Ring a bell.
is. No.
Well, except for downstairs a half hour ago.
Yep, exactly. Anyway, today we're talking to Scott. Scott, how are you doing? It's nice to have you on. Thank you for coming on and talking with us. And we're going to let you...
Great. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. We're going to let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you how you got into the trucking industry and then what kind of truck, because it's really an interesting thing. And I want you to have the full floor to go ahead and express what it is that you do.
Well, my name's Scott Howard. I'm third generation transportation for the movie industry. My grandfather was in the Hollywood Teamsters. My uncle was in the Hollywood Teamsters. That's been my career for over the last 30 years. And both our sons, my wife, I'm married to Lisa, and she's a Hollywood Teamster. And both of our sons are Hollywood Teamsters. So we have 4 generations of Hollywood Teamsters.
Wow. That is awesome. That really is, man. That is just, I never even thought about, driving in Hollywood, like being a Teamster in Hollywood. I mean, that's just one of those aspects of it that I'd never thought about.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is so.
I always thought about concerts and stuff. The people all to the concerts and sometimes even the NASCAR. I was like, oh, that sounds like a good job to have. But I never thought about Hollywood and how they have to move sets around and
100%
stuff like that. That sounds like a pretty interesting gig.
It really does. It really tell us a little bit about it. Tell us, you know how you got into it. It's a family thing. But tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
It all started with my grandfather, and he was in one of the other departments in Hollywood, and everybody back in those days, back in the 30s and 40s, aspired to get into transportation because they would see the drivers drive out to the set, bring all the equipment. and then do odd jobs throughout the day while everybody else kind of focused on filming. So he wanted to get into transportation right away. And they did a lot of Army films back then and a lot of Westerns. So transportation was right there in the mix of everything with running shots. They'd have to put the camera on trucks and the trucks would race by the actors and the horses or what have you. And he saw how much fun they were having and he wanted to be a Teamster. And then my uncle got into it.
That is really cool.
So,
that is,
see, I'm thinking transportation. I'm only thinking like tractor trailer hauling from one spot to another. But you're saying like they're like driving the camera rigs and everything. I guess that would be part of the Teamsters union for transportation there. Wow, I never even.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Teamsters. If the camera must move by vehicle, that's a Teamster.
That's
you
true,
want to eat? That's another Teamster. That's another union.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, there's probably 10 or 12 departments that make up a production crew and they're all unionized. And so if you're in the camera department, you work the camera. If you're in the transportation department, you drive the big rigs.
That is really cool.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I guess, I guess you would travel all over the country, really doing that.
Well, it's definitely turned into a global industry for sure. Sure. And yes, over the course of our career, we have traveled, from California to New York and everywhere in between. But I will say, Grandpa started back before there was semis, and it's just morphed since then. And it's funny, they used to sleep in Anderson camps. They would put big tents out in the middle of the desert or the mountains, and everybody would file in and pick a spot to go to sleep, and the crew would sleep in there while actors and VIPs were in local hotels.
Wow.
No, sure. You got to sleep in a tent and on the dirt. Yeah, the talent gets to go in the hotel.
Back in the day. So back to Mike's statement about he thought it might be semis. When it started, it was just a lot of horse and buggy, just a lot of old trucks, and it's morphed into semis. We all drive semis. You can't get in our union unless you have a CDL. And I would say at least 40 to 50% of our drivers drive semis on a regular basis because Hollywood's become so big. Everything's got to be shipped out to location and or around the world, and semis and tractor trailers are the way to do it.
Yeah. Now, have you had the opportunity to do any of the international stuff at all? Like I imagine if you'd gone up into Canada or maybe Mexico.
No, not yet, but it might be on the horizon.
Yeah, that's really, that would be so cool. Just kind of get some of that international thing going. But it's such an interesting job because I mean, you deal with so many different, just the different people you get a chance to deal with and see. That's kind of it's one of those things that everybody has that. I don't know, that actor or actress that they like that, just I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how to
There's
say
a romantic view of Hollywood.
There is, there's that. Exactly.
But nobody ever thinks about the dude that got the set from California to Georgia where the studio is. And,
right.
Because like you said, it's global because now people, it isn't just filming in California, in LA or in New York. Now it's like if you watch the back of movies and TV shows, Georgia has become a huge film industry, tax breaks and everything.
I don't watch that many movies.
Walking Dead films filmed down now.
Yeah, it's like it's all over the country and the world now where they go on, it may start here and then next thing you know, you're in London and stuff.
Right.
And I know you can't drive a truck from here to there, but there still is transportation all over the place.
Yeah.
And until we're talking about this, I never once thought about it.
Right. You don't.
Well, just in the Bethlehem area that I know of, when they filmed the first part of Transformers, when it was in the steel mill.
Oh, really?
That whole production. I mean, just to film that 30-second clip.
Yeah.
It was like a day.
Is that where they were at?
It was about 5 minutes in the movie. It was.
I had no idea.
And I mean, there was stuff all over. There was stuff all over the place. What's his name? Daniel Roebuck, when he filmed his last film, Saint Nick in Bethlehem or something like that. Filming the Hotel Bethlehem and that. streets were shut down. Everybody just came down for the simple fact to be an extra in the thing, just walking up and down the street.
Sure.
But I mean, the trucks and everything all over the creation camera and all that. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Just to make one scene.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Transformers, like a 30-second clip. It was a 12-hour project.
That was before they built the steel stacks and everything down there because they were blowing stuff up.
Yeah, because they were blowing the stuff up, so it had to come down anyway.
Before the construction, they said we're going to film this.
Yeah,
right.
It's about maybe 5 minutes in the movie.
It's like
but it was days and days and days. And I remember seeing the movie trucks from I don't know what studio or whatever, but they were just lined up along 3rd Street, blocking everything up.
It's the problem with living an hour away from everything, when you live out in the middle of nowhere.
Look, you have issues to begin with. You don't even know half the people that work for the company.
I don't.
We proved that
on purpose.
Before,
You're more likely to see a Bigfoot than we are living out in the middle.
I probably am. Yeah, that's true. I probably look for him more than you guys do too. So anyway, back to Scott. But it's a very interesting thing. And like Mike said, it's one of those things that we don't think about because we drive truck for a living. We're all truck drivers, but we go from point A to point B, but we don't know anybody. We don't do anything that's, remotely interesting. It's very mundane. It's a mundane job unless you, make it more fun, which,
you guys are definitely the backbone of the nation for sure, because as you know, nothing moves without trucks.
Right.
So, but I will say this, my union is the Hollywood Teamsters Local 399.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, I think it was in the 80s or 90s, they put out a great YouTube video on the history of Hollywood Teamsters. And so if you go to Hollywood Teamsters 399 on YouTube, they've got about a 15, 20-minute video of the entire history of Hollywood Teamsters and everything that we do.
That is really neat. That was really cool of him to do that. I'm gonna put it in my phone real quick.
No.
Yeah, it's okay. Because this is job related, Chipper. We're allowed to do it if it's job related. But
I'll just listen back to the video.
Now your wife drives too. You said Lisa drives, right?
Yeah, Lisa drives. And when we first met, we met in a bar in California here. It's called the Red Onion in 1987. And she was 19 and I was 23. And I told her on the very first date, we walked around the it's in Kings Harbor in Redondo Beach, and they've got all the boats down there. And we walked around the boats, and I told her, I said, if you get involved with me, it's basically Hollywood because that's where I work and that's where my family's from, and that's the direction we're going. So she raised the kids for 20 years, had some jobs here and there. Her mom owned a furniture store, so she worked for that. But after the kids were raised, we decided that because of all the hours that I worked and I wasn't home a lot, that she would get her CDL and that she would join the union and come to work to me, and we would see the world on Hollywood's dime. So she is a bona fide semi-tractor trailer driver, and she still has a current CDL.
Do you guys drive together like as a team, or do you both drive separate
individually?
Trucks?
Well, in Hollywood, there isn't much team driving, even though it happens at times. When they've got to get a lot of equipment long distance, they'll throw 2 drivers in a truck, to make up the time. But typically we don't. And one of the longest trips that we've had together in 2 different trucks, I had a semi and I had a 30-foot box trailer full of special effects. And she had a M2, the 3-ton Freightliner trucks, the M2s, but she had like a 35, 40-foot, maybe it was a 42-foot crane trailer that had a bunch of grip and electric and cranes inside the trailer. And we went from New York to California, just kind of team driving in separate trucks. So team driving does happen sometimes, but usually we're in our own trucks.
Okay. Yeah, that is so cool. And it's neat. And now you've passed that on to your sons too. Is that correct?
Yeah. As we speak right now, our oldest son, Chris, he and our youngest son, Justin, they're in Colorado. They're shooting a movie called The Man That Saved the World. I'm not sure what it's about, but it's his first coordinating job, which is the top of our department, the top supervisor in our department. So he's the coordinator, and Justin's been a heavy haul driver for the movie industry for, I want to say 12 years, but he's actually what's called a picture car coordinator. So in our department, the coordinator's the top. He oversees all of transportation. He has another supervisor called a captain who oversees everything on the outside of the production office and the transportation office. And then the picture car coordinator gets all the cars you see in the movies, which in this case, in Colorado, everything's in I think it's between the 40s and the early 60s. So all the cars are really old. They found a billionaire out there that's got a collection of all these cars. And so he's in charge of the cars.
That has got to be a cool aspect of, it's got to be such a cool aspect of that job, actually getting to, talk to somebody or looking for people who have, a collection like that and actually getting a chance to talk to them and then, I guess use their vehicles.
There's an entire industry out in California, mostly California with I forget what
just supplying movies cars. Just supplying vehicles.
Yeah, they have like hundreds, if not thousands of cars in a warehouse. What do you need? And you go in there, and all right. Some of them don't even run. They tow them to the spot. They're the cars in the 1960s a period piece where they're just sitting on the side of the boulevard, parked cars.
Right.
And, they just tow them there, park them, and
they only need one that runs.
Yeah. The hero car.
That's the one that Jack is in, right?
Right.
True story. Remember Gone in 60 Seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the Nick Cage one, but the one before that. I think it was filmed in the 70s.
Right. 73 Mustang.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that movie when I was a kid.
So that was a huge picture car movie for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They destroyed so many of that. That was the last of the Mustang, the big Mustangs before in the 70s. They went to that little tiny
thing.
The Mustang 2. Yeah.
The one that used to be on Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That
the little one. Yeah.
The little Cobra they had on there. But I love that movie when I was a kid, and they destroyed so many. They put that poor car through hell, but for some reason it was still running at the end of the movie, hitting telephone poles and jumping around. The car's
Hollywood magic.
I mean, you see when it jumps down, the car literally breaks in half. But in the next scene, still driving.
Yep.
That's probably because they had 30 variations of that car.
Right, exactly, yeah. Which
it's like the Dukes of Hazzard car. They've got hundreds of variations of that.
Yeah, most definitely.
That Gone in 60 Seconds car, I actually saw it, I don't know, this is going 10 years ago. They had the car that was like, it was totally smashed and everything, but it was one of the original cars on the movie. It was at a museum here in Allentown, the America on Wheels Museum. They had it on display for a while. And I just thought, everybody else just walked past it. Oh, there's a smashed Mustang. I was freaking out. My wife didn't understand because nobody heard of that movie. They only know of the Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie. But I love that movie.
But you have to think about this. Half the movies that come around again, they were made
a while ago.
They're remakes.
Nobody has any good ideas anymore.
Yeah. well, this worked. Let's try it again.
Yeah, and it does. It still, it still carries.
Let's just put some prettier people in it this time.
Right.
And newer looking stuff.
Knock the ugly off it. You're good to go.
I think that Mustang was named Eleanor, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they used it in the newer one too. The Eleanor.
Yeah, there was a place called Picture Car Warehouse, and they were the ones that built all the cars for that movie, if I remember correctly. And I do remember seeing the original Eleanor for the Nicolas Cage version sitting there in the warehouse, and it was pretty impressive.
Oh, it's a beauty. There were people trying to dress up their Mustang to look like that for years after that.
Yeah.
You watch the Barrett Jackson auction. How many come across as a clone?
Yeah, the Eleanor. Right. Yeah. They all have the license plate to say Eleanor. You know? It's not that special anymore when there's 200.
We're going way off topic here.
Kind of got lost
in the movie.
We're in Scottsdale, Arizona now.
I don't know that many people that are actually watching the auctions,
No, I do.
Well, there you go.
Meekum, Barrett Jackson. I love to watch that because I sit there and I say, how the hell is somebody paying that much for that? And then I also look, how did that car that's like my dream car go for 15 grand? I was like, I don't understand.
Well, like,
it doesn't make any sense.
It's
sometimes.
like a friend of mine has a GT40. So
a real one?
Yeah.
From the 60s.
No,
the newer ones.
No, the new one.
Okay.
You know, like
from 2006, 7?
Yeah.
They're getting lost.
Yeah. Sorry. I just watched Barrett Jackson when it rolls across, and I text him. I says, well, your color car with the white stripe just rolled across, then it's at $475,000. He says, wow, I'm not getting rid of it for that.
They're going to be a 7-figure car before you know it.
Wow.
Well, I was never a Corvette guy, but we did this Will Smith movie called 7 Pounds. And I was running the set and the picture cars, which when you do that, you've got to get them. Once the actor drives down the street, you've got a Teamster at the other end that jumps in and brings it back. We call it Act 1. Yeah. And so they had I think it was a 67 Fastback Stingray. And I had to go move this car. And like I said, I don't want to offend any viewers, but I've never been a Corvette guy. I got in this car and I started it, and it's like, and it was so fantastic. I absolutely fell in love with that car. So now I really, really appreciate the older Corvettes for sure.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's such a cool aspect of that job, man.
Yeah. I mean, it goes on and on. There's, the transportation doesn't just drive everything out to the set. I think I lost you guys somehow.
No, we're here.
We see you.
We see you.
Oh.
Yep, you're still here.
That's interesting. But we help out on the set. We help out on the picture cars, and a little bit of everything in between. If there's motorcycles, we're usually in charge of those until it gets to the point where it's more of a stunt, and then it goes to the stunt department or the precision drivers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So just moving
like in the Fall Guy. Did you guys see the recent Fall Guy?
Yeah, I did. I like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, they redid that too?
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling and
Emily Blunt.
Blunt, yeah.
Okay. No, not me. I didn't.
It was entertaining. I wouldn't exactly call it, because I loved the TV show in the 70s and 80s. With Lee Majors.
Yeah.
So I watched.
But again, you got to knock the ugly off it. You bring it back and you run it again.
Well, I don't know that blonde that was in the original Fall Guy. I can't remember her name, but there was
Heather
no
Thomas.
ugly on that one. Was that Heather Thomas? I don't know.
It wasn't.
Whoever it was.
She was in the rookie one.
Oh,
yeah, Heather Thomas, isn't she? No,
I had a.
Who married? Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Show prep. Hold on.
Who married Richie Sambora?
Oh, that was
Heather Locklear. It was Heather Thomas then.
She was a smoke show. I had a poster of her on my bedroom.
Smoke show.
As a kid, I was like,
you weren't watching the stunts that the Fall Guy was doing, huh? You were keeping an eye on Heather.
Yeah, I was like, well, I did know as a kid how many times they would jump that old square body Chevy or GMC. It was you saw it land and it would literally bend in the middle, or the tires would be cattywampus. And the next scene, it's driving straight down the road, just perfectly fine.
But a square body, you know what you have with that.
Well, it was sort of a square body when they were done. Mostly square. But no, it's so fascinating. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, we shot. We did the first 5 Marvel movies. And we did, what order was it? It was Iron Man 1. I think it was Iron Man 2. And then we did Thor. And then we did Captain America once it came back from Europe. They did most of the principal photography in Europe. And then it came back here. And then we did the first Avengers. But when we did Iron Man 2, I don't know if you guys saw that, but they took, it was a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. I think it was a Rolls Royce, but they literally laser cut that car all the way down the middle.
The racetrack. When it was on the racetrack, yeah.
Yeah, but the special effects guys literally laser cut the car down the middle with the picture car warehouse and the mechanics from the picture car coordinator and that group of guys. They laser cut the car down the middle. So when it went out to the track in front of the camera and Mickey Rourke hit it with his laser beam whip, it sliced it in half. Well, they really did. That was practical. They really did that to a Rolls Royce.
That's an expensive practical effect.
Yeah, that certainly.
Well, that bumped up the cost of the movie.
That just made the rest of the Rolls Royces worth just a little bit more now.
Right.
One
Yeah.
less.
Wow.
And then all the cars, all the Formula One cars in Iron Man 2 were quarter scale Formula One cars, but they were still fast and they were still one story. There was, gosh, I don't want to say the name, but there was one driver, let's just say driver,
Mhm.
and down in Downey Studios, it used to be an old warehouse, an airplane manufacturing complex, and they turned it into studios. Well, one of the warehouses was probably 4 football fields big on the inside, so that they could build planes and the wings, but it was empty. Well, this one driver took one of the picture cars in there and fired it up. And we were walking by, we walked in, and he starts doing donuts in this thing. High speed Formula One donuts. And it was
That'll be
just
a lot of fun.
yeah, you just turn into a 10-year-old kid with a smile across your face. A lot of fun.
That's awesome. That is really fantastic.
So Hollywood is a lot of work. It's a lot of hours.
Sure.
I think we used to work more hours because there was one X-Files episode that I think we worked like 23 hours, and we call them Fraturdays. You start Friday morning and go to Saturday morning. You see the sun come up. And so it's a lot of hours for sure.
Yeah. And crazy hours. I
Yeah.
mean, just, crazy. I can
And you thought
imagine
you
your
worked
shifts.
a lot of hours.
I know, right? I do. But I don't work, at least my shift stays the same, at least I'm working at night, sort of.
It's got to be nice
But-
too. A lot of hours, but you never know kind of day to day what you're getting into. Something different.
Very different. Yeah.
It's not the boring driving from A to B and just the same highway over and over again. Oh, look, there's that billboard again. There's that.
Oh no,
billboard.
we move around quite a bit. What you guys were talking about shutting down city blocks. When we did the first Avengers, we shot a lot of the stuff in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then we picked up the entire company and went to Cleveland, Ohio, and shut down 10 city blocks for 2 months.
Wow.
Where nobody could go in the set during the day.
Right.
And they literally put the rubble up on the buildings. We hired and rented the local National Guard and all of their Humvees and machine guns, put blanks in the machine guns. So when you watch the movie, here comes 10 or 15 Humvees roaring into downtown Cleveland, Ohio. And it was supposed to be New York because that's where we were simulating.
Right.
And we shut down 10 city blocks for about 2 months.
Wow.
No, they wouldn't be able to pull that off anymore. They're not allowed to use blanks and guns anymore.
Oh, really?
No, everything's got to be like CGI afterwards. Yeah.
That explains a lot. I've seen some movies that
ever since that Alec Baldwin incident,
that makes sense.
They're not allowed to have live ammo or any kind of ammo, really. Yeah. And what's his face? Brandon Lee, I guess, on the set of The Crow.
The Crow, yeah.
He got shot by a blank that wasn't quite a blank.
Right. Well, it makes sense. Safety. You do want to have safety first when you're.
Well, you could be safe. Just don't have live ammo anywhere on the set, like that movie did.
Yeah.
That was just.
But it is,
Way to bring the show down.
Yep.
I know.
Thanks, Mike. You said, right away.
That's why you brought me in. Let's take it to a screeching halt on the break.
Well, on Avengers, they were real blanks. And man, I've got whenever you're on a movie set, you have to have a particular badge, especially Marvel stuff, that only certain people can use their cell phones and cameras on set for continuity. And I was one of those people. I had the badge. So I shot a lot of continuity stuff. And I'm telling you that when those Humvees came roaring in, it was unlike anything because they were literally lighting up their M60s. I think that's what they were. But they were supposedly shooting the alien that was climbing all over the buildings. So it was quite the scene. And when they said back to one, they had to go back to one. Everything readjust. You guys saw the first Avengers?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Remember the Dr. Pepper truck that blew up?
Oh, yeah.
That was practical. We literally blew a Dr. Pepper truck up in the air right in the middle of the street.
Oh, man.
That's
Well, I'm glad I got my Dr. Pepper.
There's a shameless plug.
There you
That's
go.
it.
Yeah. And we're not even getting paid for that.
Right.
No, yeah, please, PepsiCo.
But no, it's so fascinating. I can't imagine what it's like to be on a set like that.
It's hard to tell
know?
now when you're watching a movie what's a practical effect anymore and what's CGI because it's
CGI 's
gotten
that-
so good.
Yeah, it is
you know,
crazy.
especially with AI is really going to be pushing it to you won't be able they'll be able to make a whole movie with artificial intelligence. You won't even need actors anymore someday
Right.
probably. That's going to
Well,
suck.
guys like Christopher Nolan, did you guys happen to watch Tenet? It's a
No.
Christopher Nolan movie where they drove a 747 airplane into the hangar at the airport.
No.
No,
Well, both my sons were on that. I'm pretty sure Justin was on, but Chris was running set, and Christopher Nolan's more of a practical guy instead of a CGI guy. So everything's got to be real in his movies. Most of the things, there's some CGIs. You saw Inception, right, with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yep.
So the same director, that's Christopher Nolan. He did Tenet, and he literally wanted a 747 airplane to crash into one of the hangars at the airport. And they actually did it. And my son was, again, videotaping because he had the badge, and he videotaped it right and sent it right to him. Dad, look at this. And it was pretty impressive.
Nowadays, you just watch the news and you can catch that shit on the news.
lately, yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
That's not even CGI. It's real. Is there?
Yeah,
is
that's definitely real.
watching the
Yeah,
Denver. That was a tug, wasn't it?
But
That drove into
it is fascinating to see that kind of stuff. I didn't know. Like, do the directors have that kind of? Do they still have that kind of where they can make the decision if they want to do something that that's practical or like that's their thing, that's their shtick. That's how that's how they do it.
All depends how much budget they got.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, that's got to depend on what kind of budget that director can get.
Well, Christopher Nolan, he brought up Christopher Nolan. He did those Batman movies, and a lot of the stuff in that was practical effects. You could see they were actually crashing trucks and doing. They built that ridiculous Batmobile and the bike that came out. They actually built that and had someone drive.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like,
that is fascinating. The stuff
I
that
actually just watched a clip on the Batmobile motorcycle, like you're talking about, Mike. And if I remember correctly, I think they put one of the actors on it instead of a precision driver, and she actually crashed it. And it showed the clip of the motorcycle, her falling off and the bike crashing. Now, everything that I say, you're going to have to go back and fact check me because with all the hours we work, all this stuff jumbles together. And the next thing you know, you're telling stories from 5 different movies, making up your own movie in your own mind.
One big long movie,
Until you end up, it's Jack Nicholson on the front of the Titanic,
with a golf club. With a golf club.
And Emily Blunt.
Right.
Chris was on that show, Tenet, and it is a lot of driving. The van drivers. Here's an aspect of our department. Van drivers are the hardest working people on the show because we have a place called base camp where all the actor trailers are, and then we have the place called set where all the filming gets done. And van drivers, if it's 1 mile, a half a mile, or 10 miles, literally all day long, don't stop carrying cast and crew to the set from different locations all day long. So there's different jobs. There's tractor trailer jobs. There's picture car jobs. There's van jobs, stake bed jobs. You're out going on runs.
Mm-hmm.
We call them runs for the departments. Like, let's say back in the day when there was film, the camera department knew they were going to run out of film before the end of the day. The driver would have to go to a camera house or Kodak down in Hollywood, pick up film and bring it back to the set so they could pop it in the camera and keep rolling.
Wow.
There's if I had to guess, there's probably 25 or 30 different job titles or variation or classifications within our department that different people can drive depending on their skill level or comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you see, like, in the future, like we were talking about AI and everything, as the computer generation and stuff gets more and more prevalent, do you see your job? It's going to change, obviously, or you're going to have different duties. Is that happening now already, where you aren't driving as much or not bringing as much stuff to a set? We'll just put that on the computer and let the computer guys do it.
Hey, Shipper, I got a question for you.
Hmm.
Is Mike a Elon Musk fan? I mean, now we're talking Teslas and self-driving tractor trailers.
Oh, I ain't Johnny Kilowatt for nothing.
There is no such thing as a self-driving anything. I don't care what you hear on TV.
I don't know. I've watched a lot of movies where nobody's in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I watched Knight Rider too, and as a kid, I never noticed that the guy was dressed as a seat. If you watch, you see the arms up on the steering wheel, and then the kit would come around and stop. Arms would just drop, and then it was just a seat there. And every once in a while, the seat headrest would move because it's a guy sitting there driving the car. That's pretty much what self-driving cars are today too.
But that's interesting. You brought up AI and CGI because I'll be 61 in April, and I've never been a techie. I've usually tried to stay away from it because my world, from my grandfather's life to my uncle's life to my life, and even a lot of what my sons do, has been manual labor and practical hands-on stuff where you either got to, like Justin, when we were shooting Jumanji 2 with The Rock,
Right.
we were down in Glamis, California, where it's all sand dunes. And if you saw Jumanji, they were jumping side-by-side razors through the sand dunes. And we were down there doing that. Well, part of our job was to drive the razors, the 4-seat and 6-seat razors with crew and equipment in them out to the sand dunes. So we would drive our tractor trailers or stake beds or pickups and to the film location. Then we would jump in razors and have to drive the crew out in the sand dunes all day in razors.
That's a lot of fun.
That is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, and then one of our friends, I don't know if I want to mention names, but she's a BA driver. She's a badass driver. I'll just say it. And I don't want to say her name, but
That's okay.
she put us in her side by side and would drive Lisa and I and Justin and Chris around the different locations out in the dunes. And some of those dunes were 2 and 3 stories high.
Wow.
And when you get to the top, there's this peak to drop down in the bowl. I think it's called a witch's something, where you get a widowmaker, I think. But you get to the top, you have to roll over the side. I'm telling you, she was scaring the living daylights out of me. And the side by side I was driving had all the sound equipment in it, which was over $150,000 worth of gear in the back.
Oof,
and so when the company would go up and over these sand dunes, I would chicken out, go halfway up, turn around, go around the sand dune and meet them on the other side.
That's probably the other part of that the job that I didn't really think about was the cost
of
everything that you're hauling around. I mean, it's not inexpensive stuff. This is stuff that wow, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that's fascinating.
The amount of money that's on a
oh my word,
set, just not even the stuff that makes it in the movie, but all the ancillary stuff. Like you're talking the all the trucks that bring the stuff, but like you got the craft services, you got the, like you're saying, the razors, all the razors that they're not even in the movie. They're just used because they're one of the few things that can get around on a sand dune.
Yeah. We went to all the rental companies in that area. A lot of the guys brought their own, but we went into the area of Glamis and rented a bunch of side-by-sides too. And we had them for a couple of weeks. So that was all rental on their part. When Hollywood comes to town, we definitely generate that's where the incentive programs come in.
Sure. The revenue
and,
holy cow.
And then back to Mike's question about AI and CGI. And when we were doing Jumanji, a lot of it was practical. And my son, Justin, the younger son that does the heavy hauling, he would have to load out his low boys and his flatbeds with, either helicopters or just gear that was over length and overweight. We'd have to go out and get permits. So, I mean, there's literally everything from heavy hauling all the way down to the 15-passenger vans. But Justin was constantly running overloaded and over length with permits.
Wow.
And just taking stuff from film set to film set. So
That is fascinating. That really is. That is so cool. I mean, it just the scope of doing what it is that you do, and it's just fascinating. It really is fascinating.
Oh, I got a question with that. You were talking about the different trucks and everything. Do you own your own trucks,
I was wondering that too.
or do you work for a company that has all this stuff?
Well, that opens up a can of worms. But there are companies out there that have equipment, and then there's supervisors, coordinators, and captains that have a lot of equipment, and then there's drivers that do have quite a bit of equipment. And so Hollywood is just like peaks and valleys, just like every industry.
Sure.
For a long time, they would rent anything and everything from everybody. Right now, it's kind of tightening down where a lot of conglomerates have come in and they've bought up companies. And so now these big conglomerates own the equipment. And there's still mom and pop shops out there. There's still drivers with equipment. And everybody kind of helps each other out. But like if you're working for Universal Studios, they don't want you to have your own equipment. So you've got to rent from your friend who's renting your equipment on his Sony or Paramount studio show, kind of a thing. So there is opportunity for that. And it used to be more. It might be more in the future. But right now, they're kind of cracking down on that.
Yeah.
And there's one driver. He was a driver. And again, I don't want to mention names, but you can look all this stuff up. He started out with 3 stake beds, and he literally started renting them back to the production companies. He scaled that company up to more and more and more and more equipment, and a huge company came in the last couple of years and bought his companies up, plus one more that he was able to sit down at the negotiation table with and say, okay, if you and I team up, this company over here is willing to pay us this much money. He sold his company for $222 million.
Nice payday.
How about it?
Yeah.
It all started with 3 flatbeds.
Yeah.
Or steak bodies, I should say.
Yeah.
I was excited. I won a Powerball. I got $4 today.
And so now what's going on in Hollywood is what's going on now is you can literally show up and be an hourly employee for the union and for the studios and punch a clock every day and go home with no responsibility. Or you can, there's a lot of opportunity in Hollywood to scale up whatever it is. One gentleman started out as a driver, and you'll know his name as soon as I'll say it, but he started out as a driver. Then he went to special effects. And then he got into editing. And then he wrote I think it was his first, maybe it wasn't his first movie, but he directed his first movie called Alien.
Oh, H.R. Geiger? Is that who you're talking about?
James Cameron.
James Cameron did the second Aliens, right?
Well, my point was he started out as a truck driver. And in Hollywood, the sky's the limit. You can go anywhere and do anything.
Wow. That is so cool. Yeah. I mean, there's even hope for us.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
I'm out.
We're done.
Yeah,
we're
it's
done.
over.
That's it.
Sorry. Turn out the lights.
And then there's the crazy part of Hollywood. I was watching one of your brother's podcasts, and I don't know if I can give a shameful plug out to True Confessionals, but I was watching one on Hollywood of all things, and it seemed like that person really dove into the dark side of Hollywood, and it's there, just like anywhere. You know, you have good cops, bad cops. You have good politicians and bad maybe you only have a few good politicians.
It's a smaller group.
There in California, you got to look way east.
But in Hollywood, it's definitely there. It's definitely there in Hollywood. But for the most part, everything is, above board, and it's just like a regular business and industry. And everybody gets up, puts their pants on, goes to work, and, does a good job and goes home.
I'm sure being part of a union helps with keeping everything, like you said, above board and everything. There are rules and you got to follow them. And
everybody's got their job.
Yeah.
And which is, that is good.
Maybe in that industry, but sometimes in the trucking part of it it wasn't so good for me. I was asked to leave many warehouses that were union because I didn't want to play by their rules. So
yeah, there's a whole union side of Hollywood, and there's a whole non-union side of Hollywood. Sure. And the non-union side has really taken off over the last 20 years. But there definitely is both. And again, if you want to play by the rules, I'll tell you a quick story. Up until my early 20s, being kind of a Hollywood silver spoon kid growing up with grandpa in the movies and uncle in the movies, I went to quite a few Hollywood parties in my teens. And so I was pretty wild in my late teens, early 20s. And then I finally looked up at the sky and I was like, if you're really up there, God, I really need some help down here because I've dated a lot of different women and I've come to a point in my life where I'm ready to settle down. And if you bring the right girl along, I'll get married and you can clean up the rest of my act.
Or she can.
And, yeah. And then the next thing I know, I find myself in the Red Onion Bar in Redondo Beach, and in walks my 19-year-old wife to be.
Right.
And that was Lisa. And then 2 months later, after we met, we got married.
Wow.
And
that could have been a Hallmark movie.
How about it?
Yeah. And so now this year is going to be 38 years of marriage, 4 kids, and 10 grandkids.
That is fantastic, dude. That is awesome.
With all the Hollywood craziness and the things that can go on,
sure.
Like you were saying, Mike, is there things that go on in transportation that goes on in the other parts of the business? Yes, it's there, but it's all a daily choice.
Sure.
It's what you choose to make of it. It's what you choose to do. Most of us choose wrongly, and then we learn from our mistakes, and then we turn around.
When you're first choosing it, it's right.
It seemed right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It seemed
What's
like
that
a
old
good
saying?
thing on paper.
Yeah.
When you're young, that's fun. I'm doing that.
Yeah. What's the old saying? You don't ask permission, you ask for. It's easier to
Right.
ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
That is the truth.
And in certain religions, you can do whatever you want. Just go to church and say, I'm sorry. And not go forth and sin again. Come back next week. You're sorry again.
Well,
Wow.
I can honestly say that since I've become a Christian, I have broken the rules a lot, and I do ask for forgiveness a lot. But
Me too, bro.
I definitely am blessed by God, and it's worked out in an industry that can absolutely go south.
And an industry that can absorb you, that can just
absolutely
draw you right in because of all the things that go on, because of the excesses that there are.
Right.
And I mean nothing against it. I mean those excesses are in every industry. It's in the trucking industry on its own. You can wind up getting involved in with all kinds of not.
Well,
such
we're
good
the only department in Hollywood that's federally regulated.
There you go.
Because of logbooks and DOT.
That has been the bane of my existence, has it not? Only because it's like I said to Shipper all the time, and Mike. One of the most frustrating things for me in this industry is that we're the only people that I know of. I mean, I'm sure pilots or something like that, but in the general public that are regulated by the federal government, where the federal government says you can work this many hours a day. They don't look at people in a warehouse and say you can work 14 hours a day, and they expect them to do it. But in the trucking industry, the government
Amazon
says
does
you
that.
can, and they expect you to do it. And
Exactly.
You're here. You're not going home.
You're already here. You're stuck.
You're already here. Why not put in another 8 hours?
There you go. And it's overtime, so stay. But it is, and at the same time, it's the thing in this industry that makes it able to work. Because you don't know what's going to happen in a 14-hour period. Whether it's an accident on the road that ties you up, so you have to be able to have. And I realize that. I know that after 30 years in the industry, you know that anything can happen. So you have to have. The companies have to have the ability to have their guys out there for whatever time, their men and women out there for whatever time they need them,
Well, and there's just so many things that can go wrong in Hollywood. I didn't work on the show, but I think it was a Michael Bay movie, and I kind of want to say it was Bad Boys, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was one of the shots where the semi was going, back to trucking.
Right.
Here goes the semi in the shot. And it had all the axles and the wheels from the trains on the back of the flatbed. And those rolled off the trailer and they were crashing into cars. Well, one of the cars had a cable rigged to it. that would jerk it into position, for lack of better words. But on the other side, there was a young lady driving a car, and the cable went over, hit her car, and split. It really hurt her, let's say.
Sure.
Right.
And so, yeah, because of the hours, we need representation out there so that it just doesn't go off the rails, which it does occasionally.
Yeah.
A helicopter crash, years ago at a place called Indian Dunes and really wrecked a lot of havoc and damage. And so things do happen from time to time. And so unions and the regulations definitely help. But everybody pushes the limit, no matter what industry you're in.
Yep. 100%.
Have you, with trucking across the country, have you had any DOT inspections and stuff? And you're hauling some odd stuff.
Yeah.
And you might actually get the cop to go, "Ooh, let's break open this load. This is Hollywood. I want to see what's in there."
Oh yeah, no, all the weigh stations know our logos on the trucks, and we get pulled in quite a bit because of what's in the trucks. And I mean, there's always something. It seems like, because crew members load the trailers, we don't, and so they can put anything in there that they want to cross state lines and go across borders. When our oldest son was 10, we were doing Pirates of the Caribbean, and I literally had to take a 5-ton truck from California to Florida. So I said, "Chris, come on, you're going to go with me." So here's my son and I driving across the nation. Excuse me. And we're just bebopping along, and we get to Florida, and they're loading the truck, the whole truck, onto a container ship, shipping it over to I think it's the St. Vincent Islands where they film Pirates of the Caribbean. So when we're traveling, it's all about DOT. We do logs every single day. We have to adhere to all the rules and regulations. What's that?
You use the electronic logs?
We've in the last couple of years we've graduated to electronic logs.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Can't get away with it anymore.
When I first started in the business, we didn't even do paper logs. So
wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm from Hollywood. You don't need to see my paperwork.
That's kind of the attitude I think people used to have, but it's not there anymore. But I will say this, Mike, as we go across the nation, people have always asked us, how do you get in to the movies and what's it like? And your program is so awesome. And that's what drew me to you guys is my wife and I wrote a book called How to Become a Truck Driver in Hollywood. And once we wrote that book, we didn't know what to do with it, except load it up on Amazon KDP, which it'll probably come out before the end of the month. And but I will say this, we started looking around at different YouTube channels, and there are so many YouTube channels out there that make trucking exciting again. Right. And you guys just talking about, the military aspect of tractor trailer driving, and then ice road truckers, and maybe almost running over Sasquatch when you're driving through the night somewhere. I mean, the YouTube channels that are talking about trucking and that truck drivers on a daily basis, cement truck drivers, dump truck drivers, heavy haul drivers. I mean, there's just so many different channels that bring out the excitement and raising the standard again of trucking, the trucking industry in general.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Wow. We are useful.
Well,
see, I'm not an idiot after all, contrary to what everybody else.
I wouldn't right away. You got to get carried away.
You just give one compliment, it goes to his head.
He's not going to fit through the door.
I am awesome. That's what I've been telling you people all these years.
And it is. I mean, there are so many aspects of this industry, and that's what's it's so fascinating. That's what's fascinating about what we do is that we get to talk, to guys like yourself. And
women
and women. Well,
don't be sexist now.
I was just looking for other anyway
people. Just say people.
Anyway, we get to talk to log haulers and
log haulers, hog haulers,
cow haulers. We've heard all kinds of stories, and it's fascinating. It really is a fascinating thing. So
That brings me to a point, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Right ahead. Please do.
As we started doing research for the book, being a man and typically thinking, okay, truck drivers are men, we started looking up different, social media accounts, and it was specifically geared towards men. But what I found out is, a guy that's, a heavy hauler or whatever his job vocation is, he's got like 320 views on his channel.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all these women truck drivers, women who are actually doing the job started popping up with, 100,000 views or 2 million views.
They're
or
better to look at than a bunch of truckers.
Exactly. I get it, but they're out there doing the job. And I found a list of truckers that, men and women, that are out there doing it every single day. But we've heard, get multiple streams of revenue, and everybody's looking for their side hustle. A lot of these drivers are being able to videotape what they do on a daily basis. And one thing, if I could encourage you guys, go down the list of, I've got 10, we can talk afterwards, but I've got like 10 that I follow on a regular basis now, because they make their cement truck job or dump truck job so interesting on a daily basis, because I don't know what they go through. And after you film in Hollywood for 3 to 5 years, let's say, you're like, oh, I've seen that special effects. Oh, I've seen that car get blown up, or that Dr. Pepper truck fly through the air. And so now you're trying to get back to reality. You're like, what is everybody else doing today? And these other channels have really just brought an awareness to what truck drivers in general do on a daily basis for the nation at large.
Yeah, I think it's really great advice, to say, especially if you're somebody who's thinking about getting into the industry as a younger person, or even as a middle-aged person, and your life is making a change. Things are do that.
Well,
take a look at YouTube.
Like he was saying, he saw everything in Hollywood, how it's done. Now you've these guys and ladies that have the onboard cameras that are just doing it on a daily basis. Right. Well, now you can really see, that guy now just flipped his Tesla, and there goes the
Tesla. You have to go to a Tesla. Teslas are very hard to flip over, by the way.
Well, so not that hard when they run out of power and you just, hit them.
Look, there's that Tesla just burst into flames.
And then you have the younger generation of these truck drivers. I'll put a shameless plug out there for one young lady. Her name's Lexi Flores. I don't know who she is, but she drives a cement truck on a daily basis, and she's bringing an awareness to the industry of how to do it right, what rules and regulations she has to abide by, but then she's making it, simplifying it for the outside person. Because I'll be honest, I drove a cement truck for about a week.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the chemicals you have to put in the mix so that by the time it gets out to the job site, it's the right consistency.
And
there's a lot to it. To it.
I actually pushed a wheelbarrow full of concrete for about 3 days way back when I was a kid,
That's not the same effect, okay?
You need a CDL to push your wheelbarrow across the yard.
Yeah.
I had 2 hips.
All you needed to be was gopher.
I did.
Gopher that load.
Yep. And that lasted about 3 days, and that was enough of the cement industry for me. I was out. I'm done. So
then there's another lady. She's over in Poland. And I can't pronounce her name, but it's Iwana Blecherdzy. And she's in Poland. She started driving trucks because she wanted freedom, in her own words. And now she's started buying her own equipment. She's running her own truck company in Poland.
Wow.
I've got, like I said, I've got a list of 10 people I'll share with you guys afterward. But there are people making a difference in the trucking world. Yeah. And YouTube channels like yours inspire people to start looking into this stuff, because like you guys said, you never thought about Hollywood and how movies get made. That's why we wrote the book. That's why you have a YouTube channel.
Right. Which, tell us a little bit about the book.
The book is so fun. It's a lot of stories, obviously, because anybody can, Google and put in an application and go get a job anywhere. But what we've done in our book is we've put enough stories and enough websites and enough information where, just like this channel, it's like you guys are bringing out information to the public of different trucking industries. Well, because ours is so specific, we filled the book full of stories of how to, and once you get in, how to become. It's like you can have a CDL, but you don't really know what a 10-year career looks like in Hollywood. So we've jam-packed it full of stories of what to do once you get in, and it definitely tells you how to get in. But you know what we did? And this was kind of like a twist. We put at least 8 to 10 other departments in there. How to become a camera person, how to become a gripper or electrician or hair and makeup or actor or background. I took the information of Hollywood that I know, poured it into the book. And so, like, let's say there's a truck driver, like we were talking before we started videotaping this session. There's a specific truck driver out there that, you know, doesn't so much want to be a truck driver. He wants to be an actor. She wants to be an actor. Once they read this book, they can see how they can do both. Because right now, I think it was yesterday, our youngest son, Justin, even though he's the picture car coordinator, even though he's hauling the picture cars out to set, they needed an extra body in the set in costume to offload a load with the actors. So he actually got to be in the movie itself.
That's really cool. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, did you guys ever find yourselves actually in the movies as extras and that? And you just answered the question. So there you go.
Well,
That's
when we
really
did
cool.
Avengers, Lisa, my wife, and Chris, our oldest son, were used in one of the premiere scenes where, again, I don't know about licensing and stuff like that, so I won't use his name. But the stunt coordinator, excuse me, had to drive in a car in the scene. And what they do is they light off a cannon inside the car that's got a hole in the floorboard, and it launches the car and it flips the car. That's how they flip the cars. Just like in Fall Guy. Shipper, you said you watched that? Remember they did it on the beach?
Right.
Let the cannon go, okay? So this particular stunt coordinator flipped it, and Lisa and Chris were limo drivers in the scene, and you can see him in there. Justin's been in quite a few movies. He was in the beginning of Will Smith's After Earth.
Wow.
Back then, he was young enough. He thought he wanted to get in stunts. And real quick, back to the book. The book is about truck driving, but it's got every avenue to any other department. And so Justin thought he wanted to be in stunts. So we were talking to the stunt coordinator, he's a friend of mine. And so the stunt coordinator let him run with the stunt guys in the beginning of After Earth. They shaved his head, put him in, military garb, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, if you're in Hollywood, you can go in any different direction you want. You just got to get your foot in the door.
Sure.
Is it like the rest of the trucking industry? Is there like a shortage? Are they having trouble finding people to do, the transportation part of Hollywood?
Again, remember earlier we talked about the peaks and the valleys. Right now, the movie industry has slowed down, and it's because there's back. I think Mike, you were saying earlier how productions have gone out of different states. New Mexico's huge. Georgia's huge. Texas. Wow, Texas is taking off right now. It used to be years ago, Canada was a big place to go for shooting. But right now in Hollywood, it is a little slow. We have 3 groupings in our system, Group 1s, Group 2s, and Group 3s, and it's all based on seniority. Most of the Group 1s are working, and periodically the Group 2s are working. So it is a little slow right now, but typically in Hollywood, over 30, 40 years that I know, from Thanksgiving to March, it generally slows down because of the holidays. And then after the new year, it takes a little bit of time for pre-production, scripts getting greenlit, production companies gathering all their people. And then come April, it usually, hits like gangbusters, and the union's so busy, they're hiring people off the street.
Wow. Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times. What is the name of your book?
Oh, the book is How to Become a Truck Driver in Hollywood. And it should be out this month on Amazon, KDP. It's going to be in paperback and also ebook for drivers that want to listen to it going down the road and hear some cool stories about 4 generations of Hollywood family history.
Nowadays, audiobook is the only book I read. I don't have
You can't read.
It's because
What do
Hooked
you
on
mean?
Phonics didn't work for him,
I'm hooked on fun.
sort of.
I'll tell you, since we've done the research on YouTube and how to market the book, and like I said, we saw how many views a lot of the men truck drivers have versus the women.
Yep. It's crazy.
I don't want to say the title because we've already got the title, but we're already thinking about a second book along the same lines, but highlighting a certain group of people that that need to be honored for their participation in the industry.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, how to be a truck driver in Hollywood?
Yep. How to become a truck driver in Hollywood.
I should be honored for my participation in the trucking industry.
You should, Mike. You really
You
should.
know what? Mike, you get honored every day when somebody drives by you and tells you you're number one. That's all the honor you get.
There you go,
It happens
bud.
several times a day.
It does.
I'll put in a plug with Elon next time I see him and tell him, Mike, that you need a Tesla semi.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
I would love to drive one. I don't know if I want to drive it every day, but I'd like to take one for a spin.
That would be kind of fun, wouldn't
just
it?
to see what it.
Yeah.
Supposedly they have all the power in the world and everything, but
Well, there's guys in our department.
Yeah, right.
There's guys in our department that own equipment that they either have their order in for a Tesla semi or they're talking about buying one. So back to AI and CGI, Hollywood keeps up with the Elon Musks out in the world.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, it's a cost saving things too. And that's what fleet managers and stuff look at as cost savings. The truck might be more expensive, but over the life of that truck, fuel, electricity is way cheaper than diesel fuel.
Yeah.
Maintenance tends to be, way less on an electric vehicle because there's not as many moving parts.
Right.
So
no oil changes.
Yeah, and for like long haul, it's not there yet. But for like shorter stuff, interstate, intrastate,
yeah,
it would electric truck might work really well.
Well, like you said, what we call our city delivery
city
system.
work,
less than 500 miles.
Right.
Well, there's one of your next episodes. You guys got to get somebody in with Tesla semi knowledge to educate the rest of us.
Well, I'll have my wife give Don a call. Maybe I can get Elon up.
All you got to do is go to the White House lawn. They're selling Teslas off of the White House lawn now. Did you see that?
I don't watch the news.
Donald Trump had all the Teslas.
He doesn't turn into any news channel. He just calls me at 9 o'clock.
If I want to know what's going
new
on,
today,
what's happening, what happened today, what do I need to know?
Well,
or you guys can listen to True Confessionals.
There
you
you
get
go.
a lot of your political and information from.
Yeah.
Who did Bigfoot vote for?
Sasquatch.
I got a picture of Sasquatch with a Trump hat on. Just saying.
Sure you do.
I go by that guy's place every day. It's down the street for me.
Oh my word.
Make the woods great again.
That's it.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Scott, or have we exhausted the?
Oh, I'm sure I could go on for hours with stories from work and.
Well, it's been very interesting. I know, like I said, I never even thought about the trucking aspect of Hollywood.
Yep. Totally agree.
It's just it never.
It doesn't occur to you.
No, it's like, all right, well, they're at a studio, everything's there. Well, just like the rest of America doesn't always think of it. How did the crap get there?
Yeah.
It comes on a truck, a boat, a plane, it's just, and yet you never think about that part of it.
Boy, Mike's on the cutting edge of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't until now. Now I'm thinking about it.
You said it came by boat or plane or train. I'll tell you one more story. We did a John Snyder television show out on Catalina Island just before Avengers. And a group of us went out there, and from Long Beach, California to Catalina Island, it's 26 miles. We had to boat everything across. Mike, boating, right? Wow. So all transportation and the entire production company was on a boat. They were on barges from Long Beach to Catalina. We filmed on the island for 2 months. So everything had to be shrunk down. There were no semis. Get this, our picture cars. You can look this up on Hulu. The show was called 26 Miles with John Snyder. But all the picture cars weren't regular cars. They were all golf carts. So you have Humvee golf carts, Escalade golf carts, Cadillac. I mean, just whatever golf cart you could turn into a picture car. And so while we were on the island, that was our picture cars. The transportation department was whittled down to anything small to get around the proper, the island. And then we were there over July, and we took all of our picture cars because every July they have a 4th of July parade, and most of the island, all they have is golf carts. So everybody fixes up their personal golf cart and they go in the parade. I think we had 15 or 20, golf carts in the parade representing Hollywood Teamsters 399, but also representing the TV show. So yeah, boats, planes, trains, motorcycles, automobiles.
Yeah, there you go.
Golf carts. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways if you're in Hollywood, transportation that you could take off and go.
You mentioned the Hummer golf cart. We actually rented one of them. We went to Outer Banks. We rented because that down there on the Outer Banks in North Carolina, you can golf carts are legal on all the roads that are. They have a top speed of 35 miles an hour, and we rented a golf cart that looks like a Hummer, and it was really cool. That was awesome. $300 I ever spent was having that thing. It was awesome.
For the whole week.
It was for the week.
Oh, okay. That was it for a day. That'd be like, wow.
It was only like $50 more than a regular golf cart.
Yeah,
and it's like, you give me a Hummer one?
It'll look a lot cooler.
Yeah, it was. I have to show you a picture. It was a lot of fun driving that thing.
The Amish have Pimp My Buggy, and there you go. One step up, Pimp My Go-Kart.
Yep, the Amish and Mike.
Driving my Hummer in my shorts and my flip-flops. That one, I did have my foot up on the deck.
From the Amish to Johnny Kilowatt.
That's it.
Even back then, I was in electric vehicles. I had an electric Hummer before there was an electric Hummer.
There you go. How about it?
Nice.
They were cool.
Yep.
Well, do you guys have any questions? Any thoughts? Is there something about Hollywood you want to know?
Yeah, but stuff you probably can't talk about, or even hopefully you don't even know about.
Oh no, I've gone down a few rabbit holes myself, but
I'll tell you what, this has been a really amazing conversation. Very interesting.
Yeah,
I think you've answered just about anything that we could really ask, especially when it comes to the industry in Hollywood, the trucking industry. Just a fascinating thing. It's just, one of those things that like Mike said, I've never given it even a second thought.
Well, I'm definitely getting the audiobook.
I'm
listening to that.
I am definitely going to buy the book.
Okay, well, I'll leave you with this story. I am a truck driver. I've hauled locally. I've driven over the road over a couple of, for a few years. And I've pretty much driven everything. I haven't driven tankers. I used to haul hay for a while, containers, freight. I've driven water trucks, dump trucks, belly dumps. I mean, I've got quite I got a little bit of experience in a lot of areas. But I will say this, back when my grandma and grandpa were young and married, and grandpa was in Hollywood, he worked on 9 John Wayne movies, and he was able to get my grandmother was a seamstress, and she literally was able to get in the wardrobe department. So they got to work together, and a lot of Hollywood families work together. But grandpa comes home one day and says, listen, most of the movies we're doing are Westerns and military stuff. And it's always out in the middle of nowhere, and they need water trucks. And water trucks, what they do on a film set is fire prevention, number one, obviously. And number two, they keep everything wet. So if you watch a movie with the city in it, all the streets always look shiny. That's because the water truck just went through, wet it all down. Most directors like it shiny. I don't know why. So grandpa wants to he came across some money. He's going to buy 10 water trucks. You know what grandma says to him? I think this is probably, I'm just guessing now, late 50s, early 60s. She said, Herb, you don't want to buy water trucks, buy a whirlybird. And he said, a whirlybird? Those don't work much in Hollywood. What do you mean? No, forget, that's crazy, woman. So he goes out and buys his 10 water trucks. And you've already heard of our family history. So grandpa owned 10 water trucks. Uncle Tom got in. I've got in. My son's got in. My wife's got in. We're all truck drivers. I mean, to the core. And guess what we could have been doing? The whirlybirds turned into helicopters. And now to rent a helicopter for Hollywood, a pilot and the ground crew, the fuel truck and the ground crew, It's something like $6,000 an hour.
Wow.
An hour. You show up with a helicopter, your own film, your own ground crew with a fuel truck, and 3 or 4 people, it's like $6,000. I think it's right around there.
Wow.
So we could have all been pilots.
You could
and
be
you guys,
Yeah.
we would have been talking about whirlybirds.
But y'all stayed hydrated with the water
There you
trucks
go.
anyway.
Stayed hydrated. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. Well, that's really cool. That is really awesome. Thank you so much, Scott, for coming on. This is.
I appreciate you guys. You guys are doing a great service because there's a lot of us out here making a living with our CDL and our driver's license.
Yeah.
So we appreciate YouTube channels like you guys.
And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you guys like you coming on and having a family like you have. It's just really fascinating. Thank you for sharing everything that you know, everything, just kind of being an open book, literally for us, for anybody, kind of pick your brain a little bit and just listen to it, and, I encourage everybody, anybody out there is really interested in this, how to become a truck driver in Hollywood. I think it's going to be a fascinating read. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll buy the book.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
So thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed yourselves, Scott. Well, I know we enjoyed ourselves. We had a great time.
Yeah,
And
great time.
We hope everybody
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Shipper. Thank you, Brian.
100%. 100%. We hope everybody enjoyed this show. And if they did, Shipper, what can they do?
They share the show. Share
Share
with
it.
anybody and everybody possible.
Mike, where are they going to share the show?
Facebook, Instagram, X,
Amen, brother.
Blue Sky.
What's Blue Sky?
It's a social media I'm not on.
Oh.
It's like
This
most
is
of
why
them.
you just say all the social media platforms.
Oh,
you
there
got
we
it
go.
all covered.
Truth Social.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, all of them. I think you hit them. Most
Write it on a bathroom wall somewhere. Yeah.
All right. Well, God bless you guys. Thank you very much. And it was great meeting y'all.
It was
Nice
great
meeting you.
too.
Enjoyed
Thank
the
you
time.
so much.
Thank you for coming on.
All right. Keep the hammer down.
In the Hammer Lane. Good night.
Good night.